This is an interesting story. It's still, what's the word? Developing. Is that a good word for it? It's a
Yeah.
developing story. However, there's some facts in here that can't be ignored. So let's just go right through it. It says that revealed 4 senators have dumped millions in stocks while Capitol Hill was briefed on the coronavirus threat, but before markets started tanking. Most notably, we have Richard Burr, who's head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which was directly briefed on coronavirus, sold up to $1.7 million in stocks between January and February. You also have Dianne Feinstein, I believe, of our great state of California, on the same committee, sold up to $6 million in stock. Wow. Hey, who's the rich person? The rich person is Dianne Feinstein with her $6 million she had to liquidate, or is it Burr? Anyway,
Jeez.
you look onto Miss Kelly Loeffler. By the way, I wonder if they mentioned this. They don't. So Mrs. Kelly Loeffler on the Senate Health Committee sold up to $3.1 million in stock starting on the day her committee was briefed by the CDC. A couple things I want to touch on with that individual right off the bat. One, she came out this morning and claimed she has nothing to do with any of her stock per portfolio. Someone manages that for her. It's a coincidence. However, at the same time, there's also a massive coincidence that her husband is the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, something crazy like that. We'll go through in a minute, but that's a fishy one. And also we have a James Inhofe who sold up to $400,000 in stocks, including real estate, all on January 27th. It's almost kind of cute when you can paint it. Like, who do you think's been in politics the longest? The person selling $6 million or the person selling $400,000? It's hilarious. You can really get an idea of how wealthy these people are by how much panic stock they sell off when they have a bad meeting with the CDC. Anyway,
This is bad.
so
and
what was that?
I was just going to say, this is bad, and I know that Tucker Carlson was going after one of these guys pretty hard last night, but I did the math, and 3 out of 4 of them were Republican, man. That's bad. It's bad. It's bad on the party.
See, here, you know what's awesome? I don't
Bad on the
care
party.
because I feel like all these people are awful and they all deserve everything that's coming to them. I don't care. Now, oh man, they're Republicans, they're Democrats.
Well, this is what I looked
they're
into.
politicians. You know what? You know why I don't like politicians? You know why I don't get too hung up on parties?
Uh-huh.
You think Dianne Feinstein was thinking anything different than Richard Burr? No, they're politicians. They belong to a class of people we don't belong to. They laugh. We call them Republicans. We call them Democrats. No, they call them us. They call them each
plebeians.
other. They're a group of people at the top, and this is the example. I mean,
The ruling class.
I'm trying to think of the example, but it's the classic thing where you convince people that you and someone else hate each other, because then you could do whatever you want behind the scenes.
The orange experiment.
You can sit down in the meeting and go like, all right, guys, this is going to be bad. Before we go public, I would recommend, I think specifically Richard Burr, he dumped hotel stocks. I mean, like, this wasn't like, oh, I sold off all my stock and, pick Disney for some reason. It's like, that'd be dumb. But it's like, no, people were selling stocks in like restaurants, travel, food.
Yeah,
like,
so I actually dove into this. I actually dove into the details. And this is what I came up with, and these are impressions. Once again, this is my opinion. This is, I analyzed facts and looked up all the facts that we could glean. But it looks like Burr didn't really have too much of an excuse. Loeffler, I actually believed. I've looked at a lot of interviews with her and so on and so forth, and she doesn't really come across as somebody that's super involved with it. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe her husband and the whoever runs her portfolio. I doubt the guy that runs New York Stock Exchange does not know exactly who's running his wife's portfolio. All right. So I kind of believed her, and I couldn't find any data on Inhofe in his 400K. You know what I'm saying? Maybe all the other reporters like, oh, that's chump change compared to Dianne Feinstein's $6 million.
Who I guess to note, similar to Senator Loeffler, Dianne Feinstein has said as well, her portfolio is not. But here's the thing: they've all come out with defenses. Burr's like, I had just randomly decided to sell $1 million in stock in hotels weeks ago, and then just what do you know? What a coincidence! I get briefed in a meeting that all of those stocks are about to evaporate. You know what's happening, and then I don't know. But again, I do want to point out, as you mentioned, I do think it's funny. You had of course you have to know. Oh my God, which party are these? I don't care. They're politicians. Of course they do this nonsense. But I think you see it. It doesn't matter what party you're in. Yeah. These people are self-interested. This wasn't nothing that any of these people did blowing off stock to make themselves independently wealthy and protect themselves from a stock market fall. Yeah. It's nothing to do with advancing anything the Democrats or the Republicans no. It has to do with advancing them.
This is why we need a third party.
They all want to. No, we don't. Because you know what the third party?
We need a fourth.
Do you know what the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th,
They're
30th
going to get
party
ganged up on by the Republicans.
They'd be full of people that are self-interested and want to be a senator so they can be the senator. So they can do this stuff. I mean, dude, we have elections. What? Congress, right? We have elections in Congress every 2 years, man. 2 years we have elections in Congress. Why do you think it's a certain type of person that makes it to Congress and stays there always? Always.
As Andrew Yang said, because this city has an ability to chew up and spit out idealists.
Well, no, it's because no one there is an idealist. They don't care. They sell you they are, and then behind closed doors, they're like, I got to burn $6 million in the market now. Otherwise, it's going to be $2 million if I don't go fast enough. I mean, that's who these people are. So
now I got a question for you, Cody. See, the show being Problem Solver Politics, you and I remember when we started the radio show that ended up developing this YouTube channel. We had actually address a very specific problem and then try and solve it, or at least offer some kind of suggestions towards a solution. And this actually kind of is reminiscent of what Mark Cuban was talking about 48 hours ago, where he said, the airline industry doesn't need a bailout because they've got so much money. And he pointed out to 28 billion of the 43 billion they got in the bailout last time went to just stock market buybacks. And he said, I think a good stopgap measure and some good legislation we should put in place on these industries. He's not a huge regulatory guy, but he says a regulation that would help everybody is that industries that receive and companies that receive a bailout cannot use stock buybacks. And so basically, just so you guys know what a stock buyback is if Boeing's saying, oh, we're going to tank and all these people are going to be unemployed and all this other stuff, okay, and they get 50 billion from the government, they can't just use 30 billion of that to buy back stocks in their own company from other people that own them, because that's called a stock buyback. It does two things. First off, it drives up the price of the stock, because whenever a company is very confident, they're going to be buying back their own stock, because it usually forebodes an increase in performance of that stock because they know that they're going to be doing well. So they want their own stock. And then also it creates a micro environment in which the stock is perceived as healthier, and there's all these benefits. So if you're really saying that you need a bailout so you don't make your employees unemployed, you can't use that money just to do stock buybacks. Executives of defense contractors, Cody, I don't know if you knew this, but they can be paid stock option benefits as part of their payment package, but they're not allowed to liquidate those stocks for a 3-year grace period. You know what I'm saying? And that eliminates any insider trading. So I'm curious if there's not a call or somebody suggesting that, if you're going to be a senator and you're going to be in these closed doors meetings and you're going to be hearing about things before other people do, dumping stock is all of a sudden basically inherently insider trading. Should there be some kind of regulation upon our elected officials? Just like you believe in blood tests for all of them?
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
Not only should there be one exist, it essentially can seem viewed the same way as insider trading. Elected officials are not allowed to make moves in the market based on confidential or classified information they have. That exists. We have a rule.
but it doesn't.
That's why all these people, if proven guilty, will be prosecuted for this. Actually, Dianne Feinstein will be okay. She's been in Congress for a Senate a long time. They won't touch
she'll
her.
be all right.
But this Imhoff guy with this $400,000, he's going to jail for 50 years, dude. I don't know how long he's been in the Senate, but. No, but there is laws against this. They do exist.
Well, no, there's laws that say you can't do it, but the threshold is very difficult to. It's just like libel and slander. You're not allowed to do it, but nobody ever actually gets convicted of it because it's very, very difficult to reach that threshold of conviction. It's really difficult when you can just come out and say, "Look, I just pay monthly to this company." Like, I think if we just had kind of like instead of means testing,
the law is simple. The law is simple and it works. If you do, why do you think this story exists? Because people pay attention to this stuff and they say, let's take a look at this. Let's just walk through this a little bit. So let's look at Mrs. Kelly Loeffler and her husband, Jeffrey Speaker, who, by the way, is the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
They sold $3 million in stock. What did they sell? Well, they sold about 50 and $100,000 the day she was briefed in Residio Technologies, I believe. That stock has since halved. Now, during that same time, they were making purchases. They weren't just selling, which would tell me that they had some idea what was going on in the market. No, they made purchases, and I believe a teleworking company that, what do you know, with everyone working from home, the teleworking company's stock's improving in value. So yes, we have things in place where if, a senator sells off his hotel stock when every hotel in the country closes for weeks, when he had info ahead of time, we have it. And the way it works is simple. This isn't the best wording. I'm going to do a longer video on just it, but just simply you can go through it. The Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act prohibits members of Congress from saying, hold on, though. I guess they would be senators. So, correct, maybe you're right. Maybe for some reason that doesn't extend to senators, I'll do more.
Well, no,
looking.
Congress is senators.
Yeah, so yeah.
And congressmen. But here's the deal.
No,
It says
sorry,
that
exactly,
you can't. It
But
says
my
that you
point is,
can't, and it defines what's a violation. But I would be interested in just saying, like, look, if you want to serve, just like Donald Trump had to divest, you know what I'm saying? Just like super PACs cannot talk. I don't know. I think it can be re-looked at.
Oh, so you hold on one second. You think that's cute, dude. You think that you're going to convince senators and Congress people to no longer own stock? Okay, that's fine. That's
No,
fine.
I'm not saying own
They
stock.
can't trade, dude. Exactly. There's two ways of doing this.
Yeah.
You have some restrictions in place and leave the risk for stuff like this happening, or you tell elected officials they can't move their own money, their own stock, they can't be involved in the market because they have too much behind.
Yeah, no,
the
I
scenes
get,
going.
no, I get that it's dicey.
I
Plus,
do- I
you would
don't
have to
see
have a
any
bunch
in
of
between.
senators. You'd have to have a bunch of senators and congressmen voting to more regulate themselves, which probably would never happen.
And you know what the thing
But-
is? You know what the other thing too is then there's nothing stopping them from picking up a phone call and being like, hey, I'm out of the market, but I still keep my eye on it. And I've had my eye on the stock. Maybe you should buy a lot of it. It can go on forever. It's one of the reasons why sometimes it's easier to let the corruption go on in front of you than it is to create a bunch of roadblocks and force the corruption 50 doors behind where you don't see it anymore. It's easier to just do it where I can see it, and I'll slap you down
Cody
when
has
it's too
convinced
far.
me. I amend my statement from 3 minutes ago.
But when you put it all in the black market, I mean, you can kind of use the same when you get to like the pro-life, pro-choice. Whatever way you feel about it, I think it's best for everyone.
But you don't think
that we know where these things are happening. And it's like a lot of things where it's like if you want to regulate it, anything that has either regulate or eliminate, and there's no real middle ground, it's best to have it done in the public. So if it is controversial, people can at least see what's happening.
No,
and debate it.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying that, like, for example, defense contractor executives, because they have security clearances, they're not allowed to liquefy a stock that they're given as payment for 3 years.
Yeah. Well, do they have any restrictions on what they could do as far as? Because I have a question.
So
right?
I was thinking if we did that with
But-
senators and congressmen,
well,
you'd eliminate an incentive to engage in insider
but
trading.
here's the thing, though. Do they have anything that says not their personal stock they're liquidating? Do they have anything that says, hey, all I know is for some reason we're building a ton of missiles, like more missiles than I normally build?
Well, that would be a violation of the security
Maybe I
clearance.
should start
Yeah.
looking at the market in ways. Where's the market going to move if war with Iran happens? Because I'm building the rockets we're going to shoot at them, and I'm telling you it's happening. Like, you see what I mean? Like, it's hard at a certain because there's a lot of making money in the market too is just like having like your eyes open. There's that classic commercial of the guy who works at the grocery store and he keeps noticing that this one thing's always running off the shelves, so he buys a bunch of stock in it, and then he doesn't have to work at the grocery store anymore because it improved so much. Like, if I build tanks and all of a sudden I'm getting orders for tanks left and right, just maybe I'll start playing the market under the idea of a lot of tanks are going to be in the world. You know what I mean? Like, how do you stop that? How do you stop a senator who gets 50 phone calls over and over again about one thing or two things, realizing, okay, that's the thing going on right now? Now, I do agree that where it's important is stuff like this. When they bring 14 senators into a closed-door meeting and say you 14 people and a few people outside of this room are the only ones who know this, and they run to the market first while they tell the American public, that is beyond shameful. And then, I guess to your point, while we're talking about this, there was a really funny moment we saw, and I have to. So like I said, for me, it's really easy to look at this stuff because I'm not some like I'm not like what's the word? I'm not in the fight. I'm a neutral observer. I love to see this though because this was a funny moment. We saw Ilhan Omar. I always pronounce the name wrong. Said I am 100% with him on this with like the scared face. But Tucker Carlson went off for about a minute or two on Senator Burr. It's like, if he doesn't resign, then we should be prosecuted. Or we should resign and then be prosecuted. I mean, he went in on him.
Yeah.
This, I can't believe you would do this in a crisis to betray the American public the way you did. And what I'm saying is, you'll notice a lot.
That's the third party we need, Cody.
But a lot of people,
the Carlson party.
A lot of people come together around this idea. It doesn't matter. Like, that's the thing. Political lines don't always matter. It doesn't matter what party these senators are from if they're using secret information to burn their money on to get their money out of the market. Like, that's wrong and shouldn't be done. So it's the kind of thing. It doesn't matter if you're Tucker Carlson or Ilhan Omar. You can look at this and say, yeah, that's shameful. It's absolutely shameful that was ever done in this country. And hey, maybe as all four of these people have spun, it's the biggest coincidence of all time. Maybe they all have smart people running their accounts. Maybe Burr just happened to have this stuff queued up weeks in advance. Or what do you know? It just happened to go. What
a time to divest in hotels.
It happens to look a lot like they walked out of a meeting on the 25th, picked up their phone, and started calling their people and said, hey, we got to do something. And You know what I would have loved? I would have loved on the 25th if they walked out of that meeting and called a press conference, told the American public, hey, this is coming in 2 months or so. We need to be ready. But hey, I'm very happy for Mrs. Feinstein and their $6 million windfall she had. Good for her, huh?
Jeez, $6 million. How do you get that wealthy being a public quote servant? I don't know.
Stuff like this. That's how you get the public servant.
Yeah. I really.
Like I said, if you have.
And the sad thing is, it's all of our native congressmen and senators in California, Cody, that are setting the precedents for all of these corruption scandals. You look at the wealth of Nancy Pelosi.
Well, look, how about even Hunter Duncan spending $15,000 on Steam games? Or Duncan Hunter, whatever his name was.
I mean, we've got the vaping Republican here, who's dumping $250,000 into video games and chicks.
Why did it have to be the vaping congressman? How come the vaping congressman couldn't have been pure and all that? I will say, in defense of California, though, we also unfortunately have how many Congress people are in California? How many senators?
Dude, we're our own freaking country,
not
man.
State senators, sorry, not state, but you look at Congress and Assembly, it's and then even
actually we don't.
Senators,
No, actually that's a huge problem. This will be a side note, but California, do you know we are the most underrepresented by a margin of 250%? And here's the reason why. Most other state legislatures, as their population increases, they'll say, okay, well, we usually want one state senator to represent 200,000 people. So we've grown by 1 million. We're going to add 5 state senators. Most other states do something that's population based. So one representative, when he stands up in Congress, represents, 100,000 people or whatever. Okay. California, on average, one of your state assemblymen or senators represents 425,000 people, while in other states, the average municipal person represents between 50 and 150,000. California has always had an 40-person state senate and an 80-person state assembly. That's it. I mean, we only have 120 representatives for a population of 20, 30, 40. How many million are we just in California? I know we're 330 million in the United States of America. And I know that the LA County's got 14 million. But for our entire state, we only can divide that number by 120 representatives. And 40 of them serve for 6 years at a time. So the amount of representation under one California representative is absolutely absurd and 2.5 times more than the next underrepresented state. It's actually a big shame upon California politics that we supposedly say that we're that avant-garde, ahead of the curve, progressive, forward-thinking state out in the West. But yeah, if you come here, you're just going to be run by a ruling class. You know what I'm saying? It really is kind of a shame upon us. So anyway, I agree. And I think that right now, just as we said, Cody, in the video yesterday, that coronavirus is making strange bedfellows. And we analyzed some of the progressive articles that were talking about Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's obsession with means testing. I never thought in a million years that I'd be seeing Ilhan Omar saying, I'm 100% on board with this, and retweeting Tucker Carlson. I mean, would you have guessed that?
See, I don't know. As a nonpartisan hack, to me, yeah, these senators are awful people, and they deserve everything coming to them. I agree with both of them. So
that's
to me, I get it. Yeah, it's awful. I don't see how you could hear the story and not react the same way, regardless of who's reacting that way. I can imagine they react that way.
So, let us know what you guys think. Please continue the conversation in the comment below. If you haven't followed us on Twitter yet, follow us at PSP Radio 1 and consider joining the channel. It's a great way to keep these videos coming to you daily without corporate sponsorship. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.